Some schools ban weapons, others ban imagination, colors, and literally breathing too loudly. 1. The Great High Five Ban. Once upon a very joyless time, a Massachusetts middle school banned high fives. Why? Because administrators decided it was too disruptive and might lead to violence. That's right. Apparently, enthusiasm was now a gateway drug to chaos. One student high-fived his friend after a math quiz, and suddenly the halls were treated like a WWE ring. Teachers were ordered to discourage all celebratory gestures, which sounds less like education and more like training for a corporate job. Kids couldn't believe it. They could study the American Revolution, but not celebrate passing the test about it. The irony? The school's motto was encouraging positive connections, just not physical ones apparently, because nothing says healthy environment like treating friendship as contraband. 2. The Banned Book of the Year, the Dictionary. In California, one elementary school banned Merriam-Webster's dictionary. The crime? It dared to include a definition for oral sex. Parents complained that their little angels might stumble upon the word while searching for octopus. So the school board did what school boards do best: panic like it's 1954. They pulled every copy from classrooms faster than you can say censorship. Imagine explaining to kids that the book designed to define words was banned because of a word. Teachers tried to defend it, arguing that a dictionary isn't porn, it's just honest. But logic lost. Somewhere, a student who couldn't spell embarrassment was ironically living it. 3. The red ink scandal. A school in Australia decided red ink was too aggressive. Yes, teachers were told to grade in softer tones, blue, purple, or emotionally neutral green, because red was deemed intimidating. Apparently, a red C triggered more trauma than actual failure. Administrators claimed the change would foster a positive feedback culture, because nothing says success like rewriting colors. Some teachers rebelled by secretly sneaking in pink pens, the underground resistance of education. The students, meanwhile, couldn't care less. They just wanted lunch. Still, somewhere out there, an ex-teacher probably wakes up at night haunted by flashbacks of crimson ink, whispering, "You can do better, Timmy." 4. The Great Halloween Prohibition. Some schools decided that dressing up as superheroes, princesses, or pumpkins was basically the end of civilization. One district in Illinois banned Halloween entirely because the costumes excluded students who don't celebrate. Instead of candy and laughter, kids got a fall spirit celebration, which is exactly as fun as it sounds. A party with no costumes, no candy, and no spirits. Teachers were instructed to confiscate any accessories resembling joy. One kid came as a ghost, got told ghosts were culturally insensitive, and had to spend the day as a white sheet enthusiast. Parents complained, kids pouted, and administrators proudly declared victory over satanic influences by replacing them with PowerPoint slides about autumn leaves. Ironically, the same school still sold Boo Grams as a fundraiser, so candygrams were fine, as long as you called them something that sounded like a failed social media app. It was less about protecting feelings and more about protecting the fragile egos of adults who can't stand fun. 5. The Banned Bagels Incident. In New York, one high school actually banned bagels because students were putting too much cream cheese on them. Apparently, a worried nutrition committee decided schmear was the new contraband. They claimed the ban was about health, but it quickly spiraled into a deli-inspired dystopia. Students resorted to sneaking in bagels wrapped in napkins, eating them in bathroom stalls like criminals. Some even formed an underground breakfast club, trading sesame for poppy under the table. Teachers caught on and started confiscating bagels, leading to what the local paper called the schmear crackdown. Parents protested, pointing out that the cafeteria still served pizza twice a week, but the principal insisted pizza was a whole meal, while a bagel was a gateway carb. By spring, the ban was lifted, not out of logic, but because the PTA brought bagels to a meeting, and nobody had the nerve to stop them. Civilization was restored, one toasted circle at a time. 6. The Yoga Outlaw Case. In Alabama, one school district banned yoga for decades because they believed it was a gateway to Hinduism. Yes, stretching was apparently an act of religious rebellion. When a PE teacher tried to introduce yoga as a calm-down exercise, parents freaked out like she'd summoned spirits in the gym. The school board doubled down, banning not just yoga, but also the word namaste and all associated hand gestures. That meant kids could do mindful stretching, but only if they called it quiet movement time. One student told reporters, "We can touch our toes, but not our souls." Eventually, the state reversed the ban, but only after requiring all yoga poses to be renamed in English and forbidding chanting. So, lotus position became cross-leg sit, and sun salutation turned into morning movement. Because apparently enlightenment is fine, as long as it sounds like gym class. 7. The color war on blue jeans. A middle school in Kansas banned blue jeans because they promoted gang behavior. The irony? The town didn't have any gangs, unless you count the marching band. Students were told that denim sent the wrong message and would be replaced with professional attire. Overnight, the cafeteria looked like a job fair for 12-year-olds. Parents complained that kids were outgrowing khakis every month, but administrators held firm. One girl got detention for wearing jeggings, which were ruled denim adjacent. The dress code rebellion that followed was legendary. Hundreds of kids showed up in overalls, forcing the principal to hold a school-wide assembly on responsible fabric choices. The whole thing ended when a parent showed up to a PTA meeting wearing jeans, daring anyone to stop her. They didn't. It turns out, the only thing scarier than teenagers in denim is a mom with nothing left to lose. 8. The birthday ban revolution. In Nebraska, a kindergarten teacher made national news after banning birthday cupcakes. Her reason? Sugar causes emotional chaos. Parents were instructed to send healthy alternatives, like carrot sticks or fruit platters shaped like faces, which to kids felt like edible disappointment. The new rule caused immediate revolt. One brave 5-year-old snuck in a single frosted cupcake in his lunchbox and became a playground legend. Other students followed, creating an underground cupcake network. Frosting smuggled in Ziploc bags, sprinkles hidden in pencil cases. Eventually, the school caught on and installed treat patrols. Local news covered the saga like it was Watergate for kindergartners. Finally, a compromise was reached. Cupcakes allowed once a month for all birthdays combined. So now 20 kids had to share 20 candles and one collective wish, probably that adults would stop trying to make celery festive. 9. The Harry Potter is witchcraft crisis. In several American schools during the early 2000s, the Harry Potter books were treated like satanic contraband. Administrators banned them because they supposedly promoted sorcery and devil worship. One Florida principal went so far as to host a book cleansing, where students were encouraged to return their copies to be locked away in storage for their spiritual safety. It was like a witch trial, but with more PTA volunteers and less evidence. One mother told local news, "My child tried to levitate a pencil after reading it. The pencil, tragically, did not move." Teachers quietly protested, pointing out that the books literally teach friendship, courage, and the power of love. But the board insisted, magic equals danger. Ironically, banning Harry Potter only made kids more obsessed with it. They traded dog-eared paperbacks like secret scrolls, reading them under desks and in the backs of school buses. Nothing fuels rebellion like a good story, and nothing says, "We learned nothing from history," like banning books about fighting oppression. 10. The silence is mandatory. Rule 1 middle school in Texas decided the cafeteria was too loud, a shocking revelation for anyone who's ever met a child. So they introduced a rule called silent lunch. Students had to eat in total silence, supervised by staff with clipboards and the power to issue noise. Violations. If someone whispered, their table lost privilege points. The goal, according to administrators, was to promote mindfulness. In reality, it turned lunch into a hostage negotiation with applesauce. Kids resorted to sign language, Morse code with French fries, and what teachers called rebellious chewing. The irony? The teacher's lounge was directly above the cafeteria, where staff laughed and chatted freely. Eventually, parents revolted, calling the policy North Korea meets Lunchables. The school softened it to quiet lunch, allowing low conversation, but the psychological damage was done. To this day, somewhere in Texas, a grown adult probably still gets nervous opening a bag of chips too loudly. 11. The recess elimination experiment. A school district in Florida once decided that recess was a distraction from academic excellence. They replaced playground time with enrichment sessions, meaning kids sat indoors and filled out worksheets about teamwork instead of, doing teamwork. The logic? If children had more classroom time, test scores would skyrocket. Spoiler, they didn't. Within weeks, teachers noticed rising chaos, kids fidgeting, tantrums increasing, and one boy reportedly trying to recess by himself in the hallway. Parents complained, psychologists protested, and even the janitor got quoted saying, "They're like caged raccoons." Eventually, after a year of record discipline problems, the district reinstated recess, but only 15 minutes a day, to ease the transition. Lawmakers in the state later passed something called the Right to Recess Act. Imagine that, a literal law to make sure children are legally allowed to go outside. Nothing sums up modern education better than turning playtime into a legislative debate. 12. The snowball felony. In New Jersey, one elementary school banned snowball fights, not just discouraged them, banned them, under a zero-tolerance policy for projectile-based aggression. A snowball, they said, was technically a potential weapon. Students caught throwing one faced detention or even suspension. Teachers were instructed to confiscate any snow-forming tools, as if third graders were operating a black market arsenal of winter weaponry. It got worse when a local news station ran the headline, "Snowballers Face Discipline." Parents mocked the rule, asking if snowflakes now required background checks. One dad showed up to pick up wearing a sign that read, "Free the Frost Warriors." But bureaucracy knows no humor. Even when kids made snow angels, staff worried they were forming snow piles with malicious intent. Eventually, after national ridicule, the rule was relaxed to allow snow appreciation, meaning kids could touch it but not throw it. Congratulations, New Jersey! You invented the world's first non-contact snow day. 13. The homework ban that backfired. One school in Oregon tried something radical. They banned homework entirely. The principal claimed it created inequality and added stress. Students were ecstatic, parents were suspicious, teachers were confused. For the first week, kids celebrated like they'd won the lottery. Then reality set in. Without homework, teachers just doubled classwork. Instead of relaxing at home, students now had marathon study sessions from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. No breaks, no mercy. Ironically, the rule designed to reduce stress turned school into a daily academic boot camp. Parents started reporting after-school meltdowns, while teachers admitted grades were actually dropping because kids forgot everything by the next morning. Within months, the school reinstated light homework and called the whole experiment a valuable learning opportunity. Translation: they learned that banning homework doesn't make students smarter, it just makes them more creative at finding ways to look busy. 14. The no-touch zone rule. In a California elementary school, administrators introduced a rule called the no-touch zone. It banned all physical contact, no hugs, no handshakes, no friendly shoulder taps. The reasoning? To prevent inappropriate behavior. The result? Instant chaos. Teachers had to break up fights using only their voices, which worked about as well as yelling at a hurricane. Students got written warnings for accidental brushing in crowded hallways. One first grader was scolded for high-fiving his best friend after tying his shoes. Parents complained that their kids came home afraid to hug them, calling the policy emotionally robotic. The school defended it, saying it promoted personal boundaries. In practice, it promoted confusion and resentment. Teachers started sarcastically calling it the force field policy. Eventually, the rule was quietly dropped after a viral video showed two kids awkwardly trying to air hug after a school play. The caption summed it up perfectly: when human contact becomes contraband. 15. The pencil case. Prohibition. In England, one school banned pencil cases. Yes, pencil cases, because they were symbols of inequality. Apparently, some students had fancy leather ones, while others used Ziploc bags, and this was causing social division. So the school outlawed them completely, ordering kids to store pencils loose in their bags to create equality. The result looked like a stationary apocalypse. Classrooms became graveyards of broken pencils, lost erasers, and orphaned rulers. Teachers complained about constant interruptions. "Miss, can I borrow a pen?" became the soundtrack of the semester. Parents mocked the rule online, calling it the war on organization. Ironically, the school shop still sold branded pencil cases as souvenirs, proving hypocrisy is alive and well in education. One student reportedly summed up the mood best. "They banned pencil cases to make us equal, but now we're all equally unprepared." When your anti-classism policy ends with everyone losing their pencils, you've officially learned nothing. 16. The no red ink, no red clothes rule. In one overly cautious middle school, red became the color of doom. After banning red pens for being too aggressive, the administration doubled down and banned red clothing altogether. Their reasoning? It was distracting and associated with gang behavior. The only problem? The school was in a quiet suburban town where the biggest gang was the chess club. Students were told to wear calm, neutral colors, like beige or gray. Overnight, the school looked like an accountant convention. Spirit Week had to be rewritten. Red Day became Respectful Earth Tone Day. Even the cheer team was forced to remake their uniforms. Parents lost it, one sarcastically asking if Christmas sweaters were now contraband. The principal insisted it was a safety measure. But when a kid got detention for wearing a red Spider-Man hoodie, the internet turned the story into a meme. After 2 months of ridicule, the ban quietly disappeared. But the photos of terrified kids in tan sweatshirts will live forever. 17. The Silent Hallway Revolution. A school in Georgia introduced something called silent hallways to maximize efficiency and minimize distraction. Translation: students had to walk to class like monks in a library. No talking, no laughing, no whispering, just rows of kids marching to the sound of squeaky shoes. Teachers stationed themselves like traffic cops, holding silence zone signs. If you dared to say hi, you risked detention. Administrators called it streamlined learning. Students called it the world's quietest prison. Parents complained that it made kids anxious, and one mom said her son came home whispering at dinner. The silence experiment lasted 3 months, until teachers realized they were losing control because they couldn't hear who was plotting trouble. Ironically, the policy meant to prevent chaos created more of it. Eventually, the principal announced a modified system, allowing low conversation levels. In other words, they reinvented the concept of talking. Congratulations, education. You just turned hallway chatter into a civil rights issue. 18. The banned bake sale. Breakdown. In an effort to promote health, a Connecticut school banned bake sales. Cupcakes, brownies, cookies, all outlawed as junk food. The move sparked outrage from students, parents, and even the lunch staff, who pointed out that the cafeteria still sold fries. Administrators argued that homemade treats lacked nutritional oversight, while students pointed out that cafeteria pizza wasn't exactly kale. The ban didn't stop sweets, it just drove them underground. Kids started running a dessert black market, selling Rice Krispies from lockers and cupcakes out of backpacks. One student became known as the Muffin Man, running a full-on pastry operation with IOUs and secret drop-offs behind the gym. When a local reporter exposed the sugar rebellion, the principal caved. Sort of. Bake sales were reinstated, but only for approved items like bran muffins and gluten-free applesauce cookies. Translation: sadness disguised as dessert. Nothing kills school spirit faster than banning joy and replacing it with fiber. 19. The no coughing in class policy. During flu season, one middle school in Arizona decided to take a firm stand against germs. Unfortunately, that stand was against coughing. The principal issued a rule stating that unnecessary coughing or throat clearing would result in disciplinary action. Apparently, illness was now a behavioral choice. Students were told to leave the room if they needed to cough, but they needed permission to leave, which they couldn't ask for without talking. One poor kid tried to stifle a sneeze and nearly passed out. Teachers were forced to hand out tissues like contraband, whispering, "Be quiet about it." Parents flooded the school with complaints, pointing out that banning coughing during flu season was like banning rain during a thunderstorm. The rule lasted exactly 1 week, ending after half the class sounded like a dying orchestra. The new guideline simply read, "Cover your mouth." Revolutionary. 20. The No Valentine's Day Edict. In Minnesota, one elementary school banned Valentine's Day because it was exclusionary. Teachers were told to remove all hearts, cupids, and anything pink. The annual card exchange was canceled, and instead, students had to write appreciation notes to everyone in class. The result? 26 identical letters that all said, "You're nice." The parents naturally rebelled. One mom showed up with a bag of heart-shaped cookies and said, "Try stopping me." Administrators argued that the ban encouraged equality, but all it encouraged was boredom. Kids still found loopholes, drawing secret hearts in homework margins or signing Happy Thursday with suspiciously red markers. By year's end, the school reinstated Valentine's under a new name, Kindness and Friendship Celebration, because apparently if you rename it, Cupid becomes socially acceptable again. 21. The Banned Best Friends. Experiment. A primary school in the UK thought it would be emotionally healthier if students didn't have best friends. Yes, really. Teachers were told to discourage exclusive friendships and promote inclusive social circles. Kids caught referring to someone as their best friend were corrected and told to value everyone equally. It was like communism, but for recess. Predictably, it backfired instantly. Instead of creating harmony, it created confusion. Children didn't understand why they couldn't sit next to their favorite person at lunch or whisper secrets on the playground. Parents called it social engineering for 5-year-olds. The administration defended the policy as preparing kids for life. But what kind of life bans loyalty? After months of backlash and headlines like "School bans friendship," they quietly dropped the rule. Ironically, the kids who led the protest became, you guessed it, best friends for life. 22. The No Laughter Week. A high school in Washington declared No Laughter Week before final exams to maintain academic focus. Posters warned, keep it serious. Teachers were told to discourage jokes, pranks, or unproductive giggling. Naturally, this only made students laugh harder. The first casualty was a kid who got detention for laughing at the word "but" during biology. Teachers couldn't keep straight faces either. One accidentally giggled during roll call and had to write herself up for setting a bad example. Parents called the policy the dumbest stress reduction method ever invented. By Wednesday, the entire school was running on suppressed laughter. When a student tripped in the cafeteria and yelled, "My dignity," the entire room erupted, and the principal officially surrendered. They replaced No Laughter Week with Mindful Humor Week. Same stress, more irony. 23. The gendered snow shoveling controversy. In Canada, one school made headlines for banning boys from shoveling snow, claiming it perpetuated outdated gender roles. Only girls were allowed to do it to promote balance. Parents were baffled, students were confused, and the maintenance staff was furious. Boys protested by showing up with toy shovels, pretending to be snow activists. The principal insisted the move was an empowerment through equity, but it quickly became national comedy. TV anchors joked that Canadian feminism has officially gone frostbitten. Even the girls hated it. One said, "We didn't ask for this. We just wanted recess." Eventually, the district stepped in and ended the fiasco, reminding everyone that equality doesn't mean assigning chores by reverse sexism. Still, for one glorious week, Snowgate proved that political correctness can, in fact, freeze solid. And that's how schools taught us one thing: logic melts faster than snow in June.